I'd like to read you some of this particular problem. It's more of a careers-based one. Must I be a working wife? I'm engaged to a wonderful boy and we hope to marry this summer. We have been lucky enough to get a house, and so long as we do not live extravagantly, we'll be able to manage quite well on my future husband's salary. The problem is that my fiancé's family seem to think that I should carry on with my job after our marriage, but I feel that a wife only should work if it is essential. I have never had to run a home before, and I feel that if I went on working, I might not be able to look after it properly. And the opinion of Mary Grant is that you are evidently quite inexperienced in domestic things, and the art of running a home has to be learnt. To run even a small house competently takes a good deal of time and thought, and I think that at first you will find it a full-time job. How do you feel about that one?
Would anybody say that now? I don't think they would. To put it in those terms makes me froth at the mouth, actually. Yeah, after all these years. Thank God we moved on a bit from that.
In the past 60-odd years, the most dramatic change of all has been the agony aunt's attitude to sex. My forebears of the 50s avoided any mention of trouble in the bedroom, but today, sex takes pride of place on the problem page.
I hope I brought the right clothes, Laura. This is a sort of wrap dress thing.
Yes, that's quite Deirdre.
It's the only dress I've got.
That's the only dress you've got?
Well, the only girly dress I've got. I mostly have big shifts.
Okay.
I also brought a black slip. In case there was a lovely bedroom scene, I thought. No. It's also very long.
I'd have to rewrite
You're shuddering.
the story,
You're shuddering.
So probably
right, okay.
not.
Okay, right. Out. I'll go and get changed then.
I've been given a starring role in the Sun's Dear Deirdre photo casebook, which brings readers' problems to life in photo stories run over the course of a week. There! The photo casebook is one of the Sun's most popular features and has been going strong for over 20 years.
Right.
I'm playing Edie, who makes the shocking discovery that her daughter's new boyfriend, Jamie, is, in fact, a woman.
Gesture with your left hand, Philippa.
And has to break the news to her homophobic husband.
So, right, Philippa, you're doing something strange with your feet. She's not a natural. Right. 2, 3. So you're going to tell your mum that you're a lesbian. Philippa, you're not going to wear those glasses, are you?
No, I wouldn't dream of it.
They're not very dear Deirdre.
No.
I don't want to be unkind about your glasses. But, yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. That's it. So, you've got to look really angry.
Yeah. Come off it, love. You can't choose your sexuality, you know.
Philippa, look a bit worried. I can't tell a lie, Crystal. I am disappointed. Okay. Second mouth open.
What's the most common question that you play in the casebook?
The recurring theme that always comes up is infidelity with the members of the same sex or the opposite sex or whatever. But because it takes so many forms, you can get plenty of material out of it. I think men like looking at the pictures. They have absolutely no idea what's going on in the story. But women read the story quite closely.
There's an awful lot of bedroom scenes, aren't there?
Well, I don't always have bed scenes as such. I sometimes have a woman getting ready to go out, but I do always have a girl in her lingerie. You know, that's the recurring theme, is the girl in her underwear. Not necessarily always the girl in bed. But also lots of problems are based around sex. You know, I can't get it up, or, you know, I've turned the other way, or whatever. That they are sexual in nature, a lot of people's problems. So, you know, that's what we're addressing. I'm going to do the scenes with your daughter.
And her girlfriend in bed, in their bras.
Is that okay?
Yeah, why can't I get in bed with my bra?
So you're looking at the phone saying, oh my gosh, it's my dad. Shall I answer? Rachel, I'd like to be able to see a little bit more of you, so push yourself up. Exactly. Right. 3. And with that left hand now, Sophie, just say, Dad, I beg you, give me a chance. Bring your left hand into the picture a bit. 2.
Evelyn Home was the agony aunt for Woman magazine in the 1950s, and she wasn't allowed to say the word bottom in her column, as in bottom of the garden or bottom of a saucepan. It was too saucy. It wasn't until the late 60s, early 70s that the agony aunts walked through the bedroom door and started to give sexual advice.
Right. This is the famous Dear Deirdre sad picture, because you're torn now between your husband and your daughter. Look up a little bit, Philippa. Make a fist rather than the whole hand, that's it.
By today's standards, the photo casebook is pretty tame, but not so long ago it would have been considered positively racy. The sexual revolution on the problem page was prompted by social changes like the introduction of the pill in 1961 and the legalisation of abortion and decriminalisation of homosexuality in 1967. Far from remaining anonymous, a new breed of frank and fearless agony aunts became household names. Queen bee of the 70s problem page was Marge Proops, advice columnist for The Mirror, then the biggest selling daily paper in the Western world.
People are so ignorant. They are abysmally ignorant about sex, and combined with lack of education about contraceptives, about everything relating to sex, produces 50,000 problems a year for me.
Marge's great rival was Claire Rayner, who started her career as a nurse in the 50s and then in the 60s became a crusading advice columnist for Woman's Own and teen magazines Rave and Petticoat.
Claire Rayner was no holds barred when it came to giving her teenage readers of Petticoat magazine some advice. She really got the backs up of moral campaigners like Mary Whitehouse, who actually branded her the Antichrist. So what was Mary getting so upset about? Well, I think it might have been letters like these about masturbation. I'm sure no one else in the world is like me. It has taken me a year to pluck up the courage to write this letter. I am 16 and I have masturbated all my life, although I didn't know what I was doing. Lately I told a friend about it and she was horrified. She said I will go blind and deaf and that my skin will become pitted and it stunts your growth and makes you ugly. She says if you've masturbated for a long time you can never have children. I can't believe I have ruined my life about this. And actually, in response to this, Claire doesn't just give reassurance, she's really angry and she says, all letters like this make me seethe with anger, not because of the sad people who have written them, but because of the stupid, destructive rubbish they have been lumbered with. Look, masturbation is not wrong. Everybody does it at some time or another. This is more than reassurance. This is rabble-rousing. This is a call to arms. Or at least to fingers.
There's no one else, is there? It's all wrong. I mean, it shouldn't be like this. It makes me very angry that people of 15, 16 and 17 still in touch in school should have to write to a total stranger like me.
In 1973, Claire hit the big time when she became agony aunt for The Sun. Writing for a tabloid brought her no-nonsense sex advice to a huge new audience, but even with a readership of millions, she never lost her very personal approach.
The standards book was her way of answering every letter. She was very insistent that the 1,000 or so letters a week that she got should get an answer that had her imprint upon them. But it would be impossible to do if you literally answered every single one. And what she'd done was come up with a set of standard answers to standard problems. So, you know, under C it goes circumcision, contraception, climax, crabs, pubic, cross-dressing. Then you get to D, which is discharge after intercourse. There's a lot of them.
Claire was working at the golden age of agony aunts, and that sort of level of reach doesn't really exist anymore.
The glorious thing about those years of the 60s, 70s and 80s is you could be a font of all knowledge. You could sit on your problem page and everything would come to you.
How did the family business run?
She had her office at the front of the house. My father, who was her manager, was next door. She would advertise a leaflet. Say somebody had written in at the end of her answer, a short answer, saying, if you want a leaflet on this, write into P.O. Box, blah, blah, blah. Literally sacks of mail would be dropped in the hall. And sometimes you'd just have a simple line saying, please send me the leaflet. And other times you would get their whole life story, which would end with, please send me the leaflet. My job was to slit open all the envelopes, check that they didn't need something else. And if they did need something else, to put it on one side for my mother to attend to. It's disgraceful, this, isn't it? I was 10 and 11, 12 when I was doing this. And somebody go, well, I learned an awful lot.
And she's using those letters as a jumping off point to do something bigger.
She was one of the first people to write in great detail about homosexuality in the 70s. Gay men, lesbian women writing in concerned about how they felt about themselves and how the rest of society would deal with them, how their families would deal with them. And she found a way to reassure them that they were normal and that everybody else had a problem, not them. Our Christmases were basically gays, Jews and actors, people who had nowhere else to go. And she would gather them unto her, waifs and strays.
You've turned out straight, Jay.
Yeah, that must probably have been a huge disappointment to my mother. Yeah. But it was, you know, it was a very, very open household.
And she was something of a pioneer when it came to giving frank sexual advice.
She was an extraordinarily stroppy woman. And if you'd told her that you couldn't do something, she'd find a way to do it. She hated silence about things, and she wanted to kick against it.
Some people might think that intercourse with a condom ought to be a low risk. Why isn't it? Claire Rayner.
Well, it is if you use the right equipment and use it properly. First of all, choose quality. Look for the kite mark.
A chap wrote to Claire to say that he was concerned about the shape of his erection. He could have taken a Polaroid and sent it in so she could have a look and tell him it was... But that obviously would be unbecoming, so he carved it lovingly out of wood and polished it up. When the advent of safe sex and condom use came along in the early 80s, when we first began to understand the challenges of AIDS, she used that to demonstrate putting a condom on.
What's that?
So what is the proper way to use a condom?
Need a model. I've got this. One of my readers sent me this. When I published a letter from a boy who was afraid he didn't measure up, and this reader... Well, he said he hadn't measured up when he was a lad, and look at him now. So we'll use that as a model. It's my paperweight. Right. So you pinch that firmly to push the air out of the way, and apply the end, the open end, of the, obviously, of the condom, to the erect penis, and you need to do it in good time. I mean, as soon as a man's got an erection, well before inserting it into the vagina. Now, this is a rather wooden, hard penis. A nice human one is soft and easier to handle.
In this new age of openness, one of the last taboos of the problem page was finally shattered, as agony aunts at last published letters from readers confused about their sexuality. Dear Claire, I met a girl at the local tennis club and we get on really well, but I worry about the male sexual fantasies I indulge in when I'm with her. Could I have been prejudiced against relationships with the opposite sex by my experiences at my very expensive public school? Trailblazers like Claire Rayner had put sex on the agony aunt's agenda, although some of her colleagues struggled to answer the more upfront questions they received, and some readers fretted that they weren't having nearly as much fun as they should be.
In the early 70s, suddenly there were words like penis and vagina and orgasm and premature ejaculation.